Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the live lecture of functional analysis. In the last lecture, we have proved some important theorems and corollaries. The first one we have proved as a corollary that if n is a finite dimensional non-linear space, then n is complete. We have proved this as a corollary to the previous theorem. All norms on finite dimensional spaces are equivalent. By using this, we have proved that the finite dimensional non-linear space is complete with respect to the zeroth norm, and if it is complete with respect to the zeroth norm, then it is complete with respect to the arbitrary norm as well. The second corollary we have proved is if n is a non-linear space and m be any finite dimensional non-linear space, then it is complete. Actually, by the previous theorem, for a finite dimensional subspace will be complete, and we know every complete subspace of a non-linear space is closed. With this, we have proved that M is closed. Later, we were going to observe an important property of linearity. Linearity provided the domain of the corresponding function is finite dimensional. That is, if T is a mapping defined from a finite dimensional non-linear space to an arbitrary non-linear space, then if the transformation of the function is linear, then it is continuous as well. That is, linearity implies continuity if the domain is finite dimensional. This is what we were proving. This proof we have started with by assuming the domain space is of dimension small n. We have written the basis as well, and if we write the basis, then for every element in the corresponding linear space, for the unique scalar, we can write the vector in this format. That is a linear combination of the basis vectors. Then to prove the function to be continuous, our aim is to show that it is bounded. And for boundedness, we want to verify this kind of inequality, right? No, norm T of x is less than or equals to m into norm of x. Therefore, x we have constructed. Let us find the T image on both the sides. T image is this. Knowing the function is linear, we can write this as summation alpha xi into Txi. Let me take the norm on both the sides. If we take the norm on both the sides, this will be a statement, right? Now let us proceed to complete the proof. Now, if this norm, actually this is norm defined in the corresponding non-linear space, right? Now, therefore, let me use triangular inequality property of the norm spaces. Therefore, may I write the norm of these summations as less equal by sum of the respective norms. Correct now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the reason? Triangular inequality of norm. Correct? Therefore, we have separated. Now, in the next step, what I am going to do? I am going to use the scalar multiplication property. This is the scalar. Can be taken out of the norm. How can I take the scalar out?
With mod?
Yes, with mod alpha I into norm of T of xi. Right? Fourth property can I write? Here you can write third property as well. Or triangular inequality. Correct now? Now, what we were interested in proving, the function T is bounded. To prove this to be bounded, actually we wanted to prove this to be less equal by m into some constant into norm 0. Correct now? Why norm 0 we were going to use? Because previously we have proved fixed norm 0 and all other norms are equivalent to this norm. Okay. Do you remember what is the norm 0 definition?
Maximum of scalars involved in linear combination.
Right. Norm 0 is maximum among the modulus of the scalars. Now we were going to write it. We were going to construct this norm 0 on the right side. This is actually having scalars. Now, what I will do, this scalar I will replace by the maximum. Okay. Therefore, may I say the inequality continues, and that maximum can be taken out also. Maximum mod alpha I, where I runs between 1 to n, and this is summation norm T of xi. Is it okay to everyone? What I have done, let me explain in a simple way. Suppose we have the term like this, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 up to some alpha 10. Okay. Now in this sum, each and every term I'm going to replace by the maximum. Suppose some alpha 7 term is maximum. Therefore, can I replace this alpha 1 by alpha 7 with alpha 1 less equal by alpha 7? This is alpha 7. Like this, every term I can replace by alpha 7. If I can replace by alpha 7, this is can be taken out common right now. And this whatever the particular value, suppose some mth value is maximum, then each alpha I is replaced by alpha m. Correct now? Alpha I is replaced by alpha m, and this alpha m is independent of I, therefore taken out. Therefore, I have written here maximum mod alpha. I hope you are getting me. Okay. Then norm txi is a scalar. Summation of scalars will be a scalar. Okay. This is my norm 0 definition, and this I am going to keep as scalar m. Therefore, what we have proved, norm of t of x is less than or equals to norm 0 into x, where m I am going to write sum of scalars norm txi. Is it okay? Therefore, may I say t is bounded with respect to norm 0. If it is bounded with respect to norm, all the norms are equivalent. Therefore, may I say t is bounded with respect to arbitrary norm. Correct now? By previous theorem. Because in the previous theorem we have proved that all norms are equivalent. Therefore, t is bounded. May I write t is continuous on capital N with respect to any norm. Okay. What the theorem tells us actually, if your domain is finite dimensional, then linearity implies continuity. Because it is finite dimensional, as it is finite dimensional, we can say all norms are equivalent. Okay. Now let us start in today's lecture. In today's lecture, we are going for an important notion of finite dimensional spaces. Actually, we were going to show a main theorem as whenever the closed and bounded sets are compact, if they implies compact, then the corresponding space is of finite dimension. That is, we were going to check an important criteria of the space to be finite dimensional. Okay, this theorem was proved by a mathematician Ries. Therefore, the theorem is known as Ries theorem. What the statement is, if a closed and bounded set is compact, then the corresponding set is finite dimensional. But before going to this main theorem, the theorem depends on one lemma, and this was proved by the same mathematician Ries. Therefore, first we will prove Ries lemma, and then we will go for proving the Ries theorem. Okay. While discussing the Ries theorem, we will go for in detail discussing this compactness definition. Therefore, first let me discuss Ries lemma. Ries lemma we will discuss first. Okay. And then we will come to Ries theorem. Okay. Before that, let us just try to understand some introduction about the mathematician Ries. The full name is Frege Ries. Ries. Okay. He was a Hungarian mathematician, and the life tenure is 22 June 1882, 28 February 1956. This was the life tenure, and in this life tenure, he has proved this important notion. If every closed and bounded set is compact, then it is finite dimension. That is, it is important criteria for checking the space to be finite dimensional or not. Okay. Let me write the statement of Ries lemma. Let us see the statement carefully. Okay. The statement says that let capital Y be closed proper subspace of a normed linear space X. Let epsilon be epsilon greater than 0 be a real number such that it lies between 0 to 1, then prove that. Then prove that there exists a point or a vector x naught in x such that, what such that, norm of x naught is equal to 1 and norm of y minus x naught greater than by epsilon for all y in capital Y. Try to understand the statement first, then we will go for the proof. Okay, what is given to us? There is one non-linear space x is given. So this is my non-linear space x. Y is closed and proper subspace. What is the meaning of proper subspace? There exists one element in x which is not in y. At least one element in x, right? Now, the meaning of the word proper subspace. For this, okay, one more thing is given, y is closed. Y is closed proper subspace of it. And epsilon be any number given between 0 to 1. For this, what we wanted to show, there exists an element x naught in x. There exists an element x naught in x such that norm of x naught is 1. Norm of x naught is 1 means what? X naught is unit vector. Correct now? X naught is a unit vector, and for all the elements small y in capital Y, norm of y minus x naught. Suppose this is my small y, an arbitrary element in y. Then distance. Again, let me just take the norm by shortest distance, okay, for the sake of showing the result. Norm of y minus x naught, that is distance between y and x naught is greater than epsilon. Distance between y and x naught is greater than epsilon. This is what we wanted to show. That is, the theorem deals with the existence of this point x naught, which is a unit vector, and the distance from the elements of y is greater than by epsilon. Distance between y and x naught is greater than by epsilon. By using this lemma, we were going to prove this Rees theorem, a condition regarding the dimensions of the given space. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood? Okay. Now what we will do, as this space was given to be the proper subspace, we will start with one element x1 in x which is not in y. Okay. We will start with one element x1 in x which is not in y. Then we will define the distance between x and x1 and this capital Y, this set y. Okay. How the distance between a vector x, a point x1 and space y is defined. Okay, what we were going to do, whatever the points we have in this y, we will find the distance of all these points with x1. Okay, we will find out the distances. Correct? Suppose this y has points, say y0, y1, y2, and so on. What we will do, initially we will find out the distance between x1 and all the elements of y. That is, we were going to find out the distance between x1 and y0. Then we will find out distance between x1, y1. Okay. Then we will say distance between x1, y2, and so on. All the distances we will calculate, and whichever will give us the infima, we will treat this as a distance between point and this set y. Okay. Why infima? Why not suprema? Because for suprema it is somewhat difficult for us to find out, because the set is not given to be bounded. If it is bounded, then it is possible. We were not knowing whether x is bounded also. Therefore, if the sets are not bounded, it is somewhat difficult to find out the supremum value of the distances. Therefore, just to make it sure, we will go for the smaller distance, that is infimum of the set, and will be treated as the distance between the point x1 and the set y. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what a distance concept we will define, and then we will proceed further to prove, to find the existence of this point x0 and proving this part as well. Okay. Let me proceed. By data, or it is given by data, capital Y is closed proper subspace. Closed proper subspace of X. Okay. Hence, may I say there exists one element in, hence there exists there exists, can I say x1 which is in x but not in y? Correct now? X minus y means x intersection y complement, no? X1 is in x but not in y, and we will define a distance. We will define a distance d as a distance between x1 and y. How the distance is defined? Just now I told you. We will find out inferior distance between x1 and the element y, where y is in capital Y. And how we have given the distance in the non-linear spaces? Norm. No? Is that okay? D is the inferior value of the set. Okay. Next, the value for epsilon given to be lying between epsilon and 1. For this value, we were going to check whether D takes a 0 value or not. What is the relation? What is the value of D? Because as it is a norm value, we know the possibility that D is either greater or equal to 0. Now we will check whether D equals to 0 or not. Okay. Now just check what happens if D is equal to 0. This I will write later. Okay. For D equals to 0, what will happen? D equals to 0 means what? What will happen? Look at this sketch and tell me. What happens if D is 0? That
Point
is
coincide.
Yeah, this point is going in y, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So point is going in y. But this point x1 we have taken element of x which is not in y. Okay. So but here, whenever D equals to 0, may I say there exists a sequence. There exists a sequence of elements in y. X1 is fixed out. There are some elements on the boundary, say here. There exists a sequence yn of elements in y where distance between yn and x1 tends to 0. And if it is so, x1 becomes the limit point of y. Correct now? This x1 becomes the limit point of y. Y is closed. If y is closed, this x1 will go in y, which is not allowed. Because x1 is the point initially we have taken in x, not in y. Is that okay? Therefore, here we will write for D equals to 0, or if I will write instead of for. If D equals to 0, may I say, or it implies there exists a sequence of elements yn converging to x1, that is norm of yn minus x1 converges to 0. With this, may I say x1 is limit point of capital Y. Okay, but capital Y is closed, which will imply x1 is in Y. Correct now? X1 is in Y, but which will be a contradiction. Correct now?
Yes, ma'am.
Which will be a contradiction to. Contradiction to what? X1 is an element of X, not in Y. Therefore, may I say here, can I say thus or hence D not equals to 0. Okay. Thus, we have what we have only possibility then D is greater than 0. As it is a distance, it will not be negative. Correct no?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now, for 0 less than epsilon less than 1 and D greater than 0, can anyone tell me a relation between D by epsilon and D? D is positive value. Epsilon is the value lying between 0 and 1. What is the relation between D and epsilon? D by epsilon and D? Greater than or less than? Suppose epsilon I am taking 1 by 2. Epsilon the value I am taking 1 by 2. Then what is the relation here? D upon half. D upon half will be 2D, no? 2D and D. Therefore, it will be greater, no? Denominator is less than 1.
Yes.
Therefore, may I say D by epsilon is greater than D. Okay? Next, now as we were defining this to be a distance d, then may I say there exists at least one point, say y naught. Say y naught in y such that norm of x1 minus y naught is exactly d. Is that okay? That is inferior holds. And suppose the inferior holds at some point say y naught. At some point say y naught. Okay? What I am going to write then? Hence there exists say y naught in y such that, what such that? Distance between x1 and y naught is exactly d. Correct now? And d is less than by d by epsilon. This we have written over. D is less than d by epsilon. Now we have fixed out 2 points. First point x1 in x. Now we have fixed out y naught in y. Now with the help of these 2 points, we will define a vector say x naught. What kind of vector I am going to define? The vector I am going to define is x1 minus y naught. Check. x1 is in x, y naught is in y is a subspace of x. Therefore, what about the subtraction x1 minus y naught? May I say it is in x? Correct now?
Yes, ma'am.
Therefore, here I am going to define a vector. See how I am going to define. I am going to define x naught as x1 minus y naught, which will be a vector in x. But if I look at the step I wanted to prove, we wanted to find the existence of x naught in x such that norm x naught is 1. Means whatever the vector we were defining, this should be a unit vector. Therefore, if I wanted to claim this x naught as this vector, we want this x naught to be unit vector as well. Therefore, to just complete the criteria, I will divide with its norm. Correct? Any vector, if it is divided by its norm, its modulus, it will be a unit vector, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What is the norm value then? What is norm of x naught?
1.
It is 1. Let us prove norm of x1 minus y naught divided by norm x1 minus y naught. This norm is a scalar taken out. Correct, no? And what we remains with? Norm of x1 minus y naught, which is equal to 1. Therefore, we have found the existence of a vector x naught in x where the norm value is equal to 1. What remains to find then? What remains to prove? This part. Norm of y minus x naught is greater than by epsilon. To prove this, let us consider the distance norm of y minus x naught. Is that okay? Here I will call it as statement number 1. Now consider. For any y in y, for any small y in y, what should I consider? Distance between y and x naught, and what is our aim to show? This distance is greater than by epsilon. Correct? Okay. Now let me write what is y, what is x naught we have selected. X naught we have selected is a vector x1 minus y naught upon norm of x1 minus y naught. Okay. Let me do a cross multiplication for the sake of simplicity. This is y norm of x1 minus y naught minus x1 plus y naught divided by norm of x1 minus y. Is it okay? Now this is a scalar taken out of the modulus. Taken out of the norm with modulus, as already it is in the norm, no need to write the modulus. Now look at the terms in the bracket. Y into norm of x1 minus y naught. I will just rewrite it with plus y naught minus x1. Okay, let us try to understand why I have done like this. Because these are the elements in y, no? Y and y naught are the elements in y. This is a scalar. Correct, no? This is the scalar. Now look at the terms in a bracket. This is the linear combination of elements of y.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the linear combination of elements of capital Y. Therefore, may I say this will imply it is in Y.
Yes, ma'am.
So this element belongs to capital Y. Okay. Now this is the distance between an element of Y and x1. What will be a distance? D is the distance we have defined between y0 and x1. Exactly D. What for the rest elements? Say this is the element just now I called some y dash. Say this I will call say y dash. This linear combination. Say y dash. Okay. Then distance between y dash and x1. What it will be? Distance between y dash and x1.
Greater than D.
Yes, it is greater than by D. Okay. We will not write strictly greater because y dash may coincide with y naught. For which value it may coincide with y naught? If the scalar is 0. Correct now? Therefore, we can just write this distance is greater equal by D. And what about this 1 upon norm of x1 minus y naught? Agree up to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I write greater equal by 1 upon norm of x1 minus y naught into D? Right? And here we have already written na norm of x1 minus y naught. What is the number 2? Norm of x1 minus y naught is less than by d by epsilon. If I take a reciprocal on both the sides, okay, I'll call this as 1, this will. If I take a reciprocal, 1 upon norm of x1 minus y naught. May I say greater than by d by epsilon? Correct, no? Strictly greater. Upon 1 upon d by epsilon into d. Norm of x1 minus y naught less than by d by epsilon. Therefore, 1 upon norm of x1 minus y naught greater than by 1 upon d by epsilon. Try to understand why it is greater than by d. This is the linear combination of elements of y. Distance between any element of y and x1 is greater or equal by d. Sorry, strictly greater than d I can say. Na? Scalar will not be 0 because we have taken this in the denominator. Correct? Na? Non-zero scalar it is. Because this is greater than by, strictly greater than by d also one can get. Strictly greater than by d. Reason here is norm of any y into y minus x1 is greater than by d. Any y I have written here. Or y star I can write. This is y star say. Y star minus x1 is greater than d. Okay. 1 upon greater than by d upon d by epsilon. Epsilon, no? Correct? Hence, there exists x naught in x such that, what such that? Its norm value is 1 and the distance between x naught and arbitrary element of y is greater than by epsilon. This is what the lemma says. Any doubt in the lemma? If you have, you can ask me.
No, ma'am.
लेखाचा फक्त एवढाच उपयोग आहे. y जर क्लोज्ड प्रॉपर सबस्पेस असेल तर x मध्ये एक x नॉट एक असा एलिमेंट येतो ज्याची नॉर्म व्हॅल्यू 1 आहे आणि डिस्टन्स y च्या एलिमेंट्स पासून ग्रेटर दॅन एप्सिलॉन आहे. एवढंच. आता हा थिअरम आपण कुठे वापरणार आहोत? मेन रिस थिअरम प्रूव्ह करण्यासाठी. ओके. आता रिस थिअरम बघूया. Okay, let us have a look to the Riesz theorem. Let us write the statement of Riesz theorem. What Riesz theorem says? Let X be a non-linear space and suppose the closed unit sphere is a closed unit sphere. How can I define the closed unit sphere? That is, the set S is the collection of elements in X such that norm X is equal to 1. Is compact, then prove that X is finite dimensional. Check the statement. The statement says that if a closed unit sphere is compact, then it is finite dimensional. One can write OR statement to this. If closed bounded set, closed and bounded sets, closed bounded set in normed linear space X is compact, then X is finite dimensional. What is the definition for compactness? What do you know compactness? काय डेफिनेशन कॉम्पॅक्टनेसची? क्लोज बाउंडेड असेल तर कॉम्पॅक्ट होतो का प्रत्येक वेळेस? हे स्टुडंट्स आपल्याला प्रूव्ह काय करायचं लक्षात घ्या. क्लोज्ड बाउंडेड सेट कॉम्पॅक्ट असेल तर तो स्पेस फायनाइट डायमेन्शनल आहे प्रूव्ह करायचा आहे. तर मला आधी कॉम्पॅक्टनेसची डेफिनेशन सांगाल का? व्हॉट इज डेफिनेशन ऑफ कॉम्पॅक्टनेस? काय कॉम्पॅक्टनेस?
Complete and totally bounded.
Yes, it is complete and totally bounded. Okay. This compactness, I don't know whether you are knowing, but this compactness is the generalization of closed and bounded concept. याचं जनरलायझेशन आहे. बरोबर आहे ना? आपण युक्लिडियन स्पेस मध्ये ज्याला क्लोज अँड बाउंडेड म्हणतो त्यालाच मेट्रिक स्पेस मध्ये आपण जनरलाइज करून कॉम्पॅक्ट म्हणणार आहोत. आणि कंडिशन काय? कंप्लीट अँड टोटली बाउंडेड. कंप्लीट अँड totally bounded. I hope you are familiar with what is completeness and what is totally bounded. Okay. तर आता आपल्याला प्रूव्ह काय करायचं बघा. क्लोज्ड बाउंडेड सेट जर कॉम्पॅक्ट असेल तर तो फायनाइट डायमेन्शनल. आता इथे प्रूव्ह करताना एक थेरम वापरणार आहे मी कॉम्पॅक्टनेसचा. कुठला थेरम वापरणार आहे बघा, आठवतोय का? सेट इज सेट टू बी कॉम्पॅक्ट इफ एव्हरी सिक्वेन्स हॅज कॉन्व्हर्जंट सबसिक्वेन्स. आठवतंय? Every sequence has convergent subsequence. Then the set is compact. This is what we have proved. तुम्हाला झालं की नाही मला माहिती नाही. झाले का?
Yes, ma'am.
That's why we are writing we know that ना. I know that, you know that असं लिहितो का आपण? A subset is compact if and only if every sequence has a convergent subsequence. Every sequence in the set, I can write in the subset has convergent subsequence. प्रत्येक सिक्वेन्सला कॉन्व्हर्जंट सबसिक्वेन्स आली पाहिजे तर तो कॉम्पॅक्ट असतो. Now here it is given that the set is compact and our aim is to prove it is finite dimensional. Then what we will assume? We will take a contradictory assumption that we will assume that the space is not finite dimensional. Okay, and we will arrive with somewhere in the somewhere we will arrive with one more contradiction, right? Okay, so for here, right, since S is given to be compact, it is given compact, no? Okay, therefore may I write every sequence in S must have convergent subsequence. Okay, and the aim is to show that or to prove that X is finite dimensional. Okay. For the sake of proving the result, let me assume the contradiction. Let me assume the contradiction. What is assume the contradiction? That is X is not finite dimensional. Not finite means infinite dimensional. Okay. With the help of this infinite dimensional concept, we will find out the convergent subsequence. Let us start. Okay. Here what I will do, initially I will start with one element x1 in S. Let me choose. one element x1 in S. Okay, and say n1 be the space spanned by x1. Is it okay? And subspace of X. Try to get me what I am doing. This is a subspace we have X. Our aim is to show that this is finite dimensional. Okay, and there is one closed unit sphere S given. Okay, which is given to be compact. Okay, now let me select one element x1 in S. One element x1 in S, and let us form the space spanned by x1. Okay, then what is the dimension of n1? Yes, space spanned by x1. Then what is the dimension of n1? Yes. N1 is proper subspace of X. Okay. And one dimension, no. I will call it as finite dimension. And finite dimensions. Space spanned by X1. Therefore, it is of finite dimensions. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And this, as it is of finite dimension and is a subspace, may I say N1 is closed? We have proved now last corollary. Corollary in the last lecture. What is the corollary we have proved? In N is nonlinear space, M is finite dimensional subspace of N, then M is closed. Finite dimensional subspace of M is always closed. Therefore, here I can write, therefore N1 is closed, right now? Therefore, N1 is closed. Reason corollary to previous lecture. Corollary 2 of the previous lecture. Now we have obtained one proper closed subspace. I'll just draw some big sketch. Okay, this is my S. Okay, somewhere here I have taken an element x1, no? Then this is the say space spanned by x1, say n1. Then n1 we have proved proper subspace of X, closed also. Therefore, may I use Ree's theorem, Ree's lemma? For a proper closed subspace of X, there exists one element in the original set such that it is a unit vector and this holds. Therefore, now can I write for there exists one element in which space? In yes, no? There exists one element, say x2 in S, such that what is the distance between x2 and x1? Greater than by epsilon. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So here can I write by Ree's lemma? There exists a vector x2 in S. Why I am saying x2 in X? Actually, this is x2 in X, such that, let me just make a correction. x2 in X such that, what such that? Norm of x2 is equal to 1 and what? The distance between x2 and x1 greater than by epsilon. Time being, let me select epsilon as 1. Okay. Therefore, may I say as x2 is in X, norm x2 is 1. Thus, may I say that this x2 is in S, because S is the collection of all unit sphere. Therefore, where is this x2 location? I can show here on the boundary, no? x2 in X such that norm of x2 minus x1 is greater than half. Okay. Now, what we will do? We have two elements now, x1 and x2 with us. Now we will form one more space formed by x1 and x2, which is again proper subspace of X. X is and it is of finite dimensional, hence closed. And again, I can apply the Rees lemma. Therefore, here I will write N to be the proper closed. See, everything I am writing in one statement. Proper closed subspace of X. Right now, into be the proper closed subspace of X generated by or spanned by x1, x2. Okay. Then by Rees lemma again. What Rees lemma says? There exists x3 in X such that norm x3 is equal to 1. Therefore, can I write directly x3 in S? There exists x3 in S such that, what such that? Norm of x3 minus x2 greater than half. Correct? Check. Norm of x2 minus x1 greater than half, norm of x3 minus x2 greater than half, and just proceed in the same manner. Proceeding in this manner, what kind of sequence we will obtain in S? We obtain a sequence of element in S. We obtain a sequence xn of S such that, what such that? The distance xm and xn is greater than half, no, arbitrary. And if it is greater than half, whether it is convergent?
No, ma'am.
Therefore, may I say this sequence of points on unit sphere has no convergent subsequence, right now? Here has no convergent subsequence. And if it has no convergent subsequence, which is contradicting the fact, which fact it is contradicting? Contradicting to S is compact. Why this contradiction arises? Because we have assumed that X is not finite dimensional. Assuming this is not finite dimensional, we have formed the sequence. No. How many elements are there in the sequence? How many elements we can find? x1, x2, so on up to xn and so on. But this is not true. This contradiction arises due to the wrong assumption that X is not a finite dimension. Therefore, may I say X is finite dimensional. Hence the proof. Any difficulty if you have, you can ask. Rees lemma and Rees theorem, very important theorem. Why it is important? Because this criteria will tell us how to identify the spaces of finite dimension. How to check? Simply, if closed and bounded set is compact, then it is true. Closed and bounded set compact is true only in Euclidean spaces, R1, R2, R3, because all those are finite dimensions. Correct, no? R1, R2, R3 dimensions काय त्या spaces ची? Finite आहेत. म्हणून आपण Euclidean spaces मध्ये closed and bounded compact म्हणतो. Is it okay? Any difficulty with the proof? If you have, you can ask me.
Ma'am.
Okay, thank you for being with me. I think my connection is lost. If you are hearing my voice, you can leave the meeting.